Oil, sanctions, and back channels. Chevron Venezuela oil license and the energy chessboard. Oil and sanctions rarely move in straight lines. They twist through courtrooms, conference rooms, and quiet hotel lobbies where back channels do the heavy lifting. Today's story is how a narrowly tailored U.S. license letting Chevron operate in Venezuela became a hinge in a much larger energy chessboard, where barrels, ballots, and bargaining all matter. Start with the basics. Sanctions are pressure with a purpose. Push a government towards specific steps without firing a shot. But sanctions also shape markets. When one of the world's largest oil reserves goes largely offline, refiners hunt for substitutes, shipping routes reroute, and prices reflect uncertainty. Enter a calibrated exception, a limited license that allows Chevron to resume tightly controlled operations in Venezuela under strict compliance and transparency rules, with flows monitored and proceeds restricted. It isn't a free pass, it's a channel with guardrails. Why Chevron and why now? Because energy systems reward specificity. Some U.S. Gulf Coast refineries are optimized for heavy, sour crude, the kind Venezuela produces. Replacing those barrels isn't plug and play. A carefully designed license can relieve bottlenecks, reduce reliance on higher-risk sources, and nudge prices without signaling a broad sanctions retreat. It's less open the taps and more open a valve and watch the gauges. Licenses like this are rarely just about oil. They are bargaining chips tied to political benchmarks, electoral timelines, humanitarian pathways, and dialogue mechanisms. The message is simple but firm. Progress earns space, backsliding narrows it. That's why the documents often come with reporting obligations, caps, and snapback provisions if commitments aren't met. Think of it as diplomacy with instrumentation. Dials you can adjust in weeks, not years. On the ground, the mechanics look technical. Joint ventures restart maintenance. Wells and upgraders come back carefully after years of neglect. Safety protocols are audited. Payments may be structured to settle legacy debts or fund verifiable social needs. Compliance teams sit alongside engineers tracking every barrel and bank transfer. The work is slow on purpose. Trust is measured in paperwork and performance, not press releases. Backchannels do two jobs at once. First, they keep misunderstandings from blowing up technical progress. Quiet calls to clarify a shipment, a customs delay, a crew rotation. Second, they test the political temperature. What conditions might unlock the next notch of cooperation? What red lines cannot move? Where international partners can add guarantees? These are not headline moments, they're the plumbing of statecraft. Why does any of this matter to the wider energy chessboard? Because small, reliable flows in the right place can have outsized effects. Steadier supply to specialized refineries dampens volatility. Predictable offtake encourages maintenance and investment, which in turn stabilizes employment and local services. Even a modest rebound in Venezuelan output, if transparent and rules-bound, can shift bargaining power at the margins in global markets already juggling other shocks. There are guardrails for a reason. Sanctions aim to deter illicit finance, corruption, and repression. Licenses can't become loopholes. That's why credible monitoring is non-negotiable. Clear paperwork, third-party oversight where possible, and data that can be audited. If benchmarks slip on governance, on electoral commitments, on human rights, the dial can turn back quickly. The credibility of the tool rests on the credibility of enforcement. For Washington, the Chevron license is one instrument among many. It pairs with regional diplomacy, support for international observers, and coordination with partners who also have stakes in stability, from neighbors managing migration to allies watching fuel prices. The strategy is to create incentives for lawful, peaceful pathways while retaining leverage. Not maximalism, but managed risk. Inside Venezuela, the calculus is practical. Bringing capacity back safely after underinvestment takes time, parts, and people. Skilled workers must return, equipment must be refurbished, and pipelines must be tested. Every restart is a bet that the rules will hold long enough to justify the effort. That's why predictability, clear terms, consistent enforcement, and visible milestones matters more than big promises. What could go wrong? Plenty. A legal challenge stalls shipments. A compliance failure triggers penalties. Political hardening on any side freezes the dial. Or external shocks, conflict elsewhere, a hurricane in the Gulf, an abrupt demand drop, scramble the very market the license was designed to steady. Good policy assumes turbulence and builds in ways to fail safely. Pause mechanisms, contingency routing, insurance. What would success look like? Not a victory parade. Success is boring on purpose. Transparent, rule-bound barrels moving to refineries that need them. Incremental social relief funded and verified. Space preserved for civic and electoral processes to function. And the credible threat that privileges can be withdrawn if terms are breached. In markets, quiet is a feature, not a bug. How should viewers read the next moves? Watch the paperwork as much as the politics. Are reporting requirements being met on time? Are third-party verifications published? Do timelines for maintenance and exports align with reality, not rhetoric? Are humanitarian channels expanding in ways communities can see? And when statements get heated, do the back channels still keep the technical work on track? The lesson is larger than one license. Smart sanctions rely on precision, feedback, and trust that is earned, not assumed. Energy policy works best when it is legible to the people who run the pipes and plants. And diplomacy is most durable when it gives all sides a path to claim progress without forcing a showdown. In that delicate space, guardrails on, gauges watched, the Chevron Venezuela license is less a loophole than a test case for calibrated statecraft. If you're tracking energy and geopolitics, follow the dials, not just the declarations. The big story is in the small adjustments that keep barrels lawful, markets calmer, and options open while politics tries to catch up. For deeper explainers and sector-by-sector analysis, visit globalinfoveda.com.